pasa? Que pasa? It's so funny that you said that because this morning I was thinking about that. I'm like, we're doing an afternoon show. Que pasa? Que pasa? I should say evening. We're doing an early evening show. I'm like, what's going to be up with that?
Girl, it's going to bring out a different kind of energy.
Wait a minute.
I might say good morning in the evening.
Listen.
What's up? What's up?
Girl.
What's up? What's good, as they say.
Yes, that's it. This is the We Missed It podcast on IntellectualRadio.com. I am co-host Chrissy Johnson, and we are with my dear friend Tricia Cox, who has several names, but I'll keep it to two. Trixie,
Trixana,
Trix,
all the things.
Trixie,
yes,
according to what kind of mood I'm in. And
yes.
It's like 5 people inside of me, so it's no telling what I'm going to call you.
Oh my goodness, what does that say about me who answers?
Right. Yeah.
Hey girl, hey, happy Sunday. Hello to our fantastical producer engineer Wanda. I heard she's in the building.
Yes,
hey,
she
Wanda.
is. Wanda B's in the house.
Yes,
I was like, look who's here.
What a nice treat. Nice treat.
Yes. For those people who are watching, if you have any comments, you can go to the YouTube and comment now. Otherwise, you can reach Tricia and me on IG at We Missed It .podcast. Facebook is We Missed It a podcast. And Gmail is We Missed It .podcast @gmail.com. We welcome any feedback, any letters, any comments that you have. We welcome them. And thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you. So, friend, I see you in your fall-colored sweater. I look forward to the fashion. Hey,
no,
girl.
So I'm looking at you with this, giving me this shoulder action. One day we'll be able to see you. I'm like, look at the shoulder.
You know, every now and then.
She done got off from work and put a little cute sweatshirt.
Look, every now and then. I try to show a little shoulder. That's all the girl got to work with.
Well, here's what's funny. Listen, sometimes when I watch, I'm trying to figure out, do you notice about me? As many times as you've been to my home, I don't know if you know I watch the fashions on TV, but I do. And it's so funny because they have this guy that comes on with his fashion line. And he's like, well, every woman can show a little shoulder. So
oh, yes. Well, yes, ma'am. I know that you are into the fashions. You watch it on the television. You watch it on the people. You go in the stores and do a little browsing.
I visit with it, right?
Yes,
anyway.
Yes, it is your happy place. So
it is. And it's just natural. It's not even put on. I'm not even working to do it. It just comes natural.
It's your vibe. I'm with that. And, this has been my thing for a long time. I agree with that gentleman. You do not have to show the entire body at one time. You could give them a little piece here and there, maybe a little back action.
There you go. He's
like, shoulder action. Yeah, I was feeling shoulder-ish today, shoulder-ish. So that's all I got, friend. I would like to have a little color on, but I'm going to let you do that.
Okay. Well, I'll carry that. And as soon as you feel like taking that torch, you take it. It's all good.
Yes. Well, we're generous.
Yes.
We don't have a problem sharing.
The seasons are kind of changing. We're almost leaving fall and going into winter. And it is already October 30th.
It is?
It is October 30th.
When is the day that people go out trick-or-treating?
It's tomorrow, Tricia.
Okay. Listen, I was never a Halloween-y kind of girl.
No, and it's so funny how we're so similar because I'm not either. And everybody at work is loving it. We had Halloween backgrounds in our team's meetings, and certain people have like real Halloween decorations in their homes. They're showing them. And I'm just like, I'm not into Halloween, but...
Listen, Halloween is actually a favorite day. I guess it's not a holiday, but it's a favorite day for a lot of people. You remember my friend and old salon owner, Philip McKay?
Yes.
It was his favorite. Do you remember he used to close the entire salon and have a whole party?
I do.
Blood coming out
I
the
do
mirrors.
remember.
It was spectacular.
Yeah.
So yeah, people really take it seriously. But ever since childhood, I don't know if it was because when I started in Belize, we didn't do Halloween at that point in my life,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we came to the States, and my mother, we were in Roseland, which was still really nicely mixed. And she was like, "You're not going out there in that cold and no outfit." So yay. There it was.
She shut it
It
down.
didn't go that way. It wasn't going that way. And I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. I love giving the kids a little candy. But nah, I'm not about there putting on the outfit and stuff. So for those of you who love it, I do enjoy watching the costumes. And I like a little hocus pocus movie. I am not good for the hauntings. And I'm with it. If you enjoying it, get it how you live. Get it.
Girl.
I'm believing it. I just want to make a little mention about technical. I don't know if you know, but I'm getting a little static on my end. So if you don't hear anything on your end, maybe I'll just take my my earpods out.
I don't think we hear it, do we, Wanda? No, we
Okay.
don't.
All right. Well, good. As long as the listeners won't hear it.
Oh no, we don't hear it. We don't hear
So
it.
I'll take mine out and see what's happening.
Okay, so
Okay. So
let me know if you can hear okay.
Yeah, it might be just my device.
Oh, got it. And it's funny, you're coming through clearer here now. Yes, it's much better over
Am I?
here. Okay.
Okay, well, I'll keep the earpods off, so we'll do it this way.
Okay. All right. Well, the call
Yeah,
out
yeah,
for us
yeah.
today is the fact that we've gone through all of October and we've heard a lot about
Mm-hmm.
elections and voting and
Breast
breast
cancer.
cancer. But we ain't
Mm-hmm.
heard nothing about domestic violence awareness.
Yeah, that's a near and dear conversation. And I was talking with you yesterday, and I'm like, Christine, it is like the end of the month, and I looked up and I said, I was not confused. It was Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and no one has said a thing. So I'm just hoping that that just happened to you because we're in an
It's
election
an
year, and
election year. I really think
yeah,
that. And if you hadn't told me, Tricia, I wouldn't have known it. I do know
yeah,
it exists, but I wasn't keying in on it either.
yeah. So I just wanted to make sure we gave it an honorable mention because it is something that I realized about 9 or 10 years ago that I myself have seen, participated, been involved, and was in the oh my gosh, is this really what that
Look,
was kind of
did
season?
this just happen?
Look, am I in the club? Is that what happened? Oh my gosh. So I definitely would love it if we can, talk about it just for a little minute because I do believe that domestic violence is something that most people associate with those whom are physically abused. And me, myself, I learned that it's not just the physicality of abuse that can show up. It can be,
Right.
sexual, emotional, economic, psychological actions, and all of those things. It's as long as anything frightens you, intimidates you, terrorizes you,
Yeah, it's the
manipulates you.
intimidation for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So I know that I've experienced that. Most people don't think that I have, or probably would never put me in that story because you and I are so silly and we have such great energy. And when
And
we
I think
do
we're
talk about it,
independent. I think when you're
yeah,
independent the way that we are,
yes, we move like a force.
right, people are like, girl,
They're
nobody
like,
bothering
well,
you. What are you
nothing
doing?
happened to those girls, those cutie patooties, those smart, wise women. So, yeah, that's why I wanted to make sure we touched on it just briefly because I know I've experienced it. And I know I'm going to give you a moment to get into it too. But my aha, and we didn't talk about this at all because I wanted to save it for the show.
Mhm.
My aha was that I was participating or had been affected by economic abuse. And most
No,
people don't
I didn't
realize
know
that that's
that. You
a
need to go
thing.
into
It's
detail.
a thing.
Yeah,
I need to go into detail. Well,
Wanda B just said, "What is that?" And I'm with her. I can't, and what's funny is, no, here, I kind of think I could, if I sat here long enough, come up, get right, but we want to, what, tell us, we got to know now.
okay, okay. So I learned myself, and Christine actually knows the situation. However, I don't think that in her mind in reflection that she would have termed it under the category
I
of
was gonna say
economic
the
violence
category.
abuse.
Mm-hmm.
I think, Christy, you would have termed it probably under emotional, maybe.
Probably,
Yeah.
if it's the
Yeah. Do you
situation I'm
have,
thinking of.
yeah, what would you have called it before I
Well, I'm
called it
looking
that?
at this. I'm glad you mentioned that because I do think we obviously know someone's getting beat up or raped or something of that
Mm-hmm.
nature, then they're suffering from physical abuse.
Mm-hmm.
But if it is emotional, sexual, economical, or psychological, some of us are just not feeling, we're feeling the effects of the abuse, but we're not calling it out. We don't even know what it is. So for well, maybe they are using
Yeah.
money though for the
Well,
intimidation
let me
factor.
just
Yeah.
let me share my little tidbit of
Mhm.
it. So yes, Wanda, you're correct, and Christine, you're correct. One of the major reasons why women are unable, or we can say men as well, young people are unable to get out of situations where there is abuse, verbal abuse, and physical abuse, and sexual abuse, has a lot to do with not having the economics in place, not having the financials in place to be able to get away from a situation or put a person out of your home, right? You may need some money, you may need transportation. What if it
Did
means you
not
have to
think
go to
about
another
that.
state, right? So for me,
Yes.
I termed it that because a lot of people have asked me recently in the past several years, oh my goodness, like, why did you end up moving to Florida if you were so successful as a hairstylist in Chicago? You had your own business, you had a very vibrant clientele, and all the things that go with that. And I had fantastic friendships such as yourself, and I was doing the city girl thing, looking good, feeling great. Well, the thing is, what I try to do is I would answer vaguely and just say, well, my family lives here. They've lived here for 20 years. My niece was maturing, and I tried to get closer to that so that we can, all be in the same space. I didn't want to be a loner. And those are true as well. But
Well, I would
the
always use the family. I mean, yeah,
yeah,
I'll
we
let you
use the
finish, but
family,
I always
right?
use it. When people ask me, I use
Yeah.
the family
We use the
excuse.
family, but unbeknownst to most people, and Wanda, this is probably going to be a little new news for you. One of the reasons I no longer live in Chicago and had not been until the day I met Wanda actually in studio. I hadn't been for years. So that was actually a visit to reclaim my independence because I had to do a Tina Turner,
Yeah,
snatch
girl.
my
She had
name,
to run up
right?
out of here.
I had to run up out of here.
She
I had to
did.
snatch my name. Wanda said,
Wanda
not that
said,
girl I
"Where my
met. Not
popcorn at? I need to hear this story." Yeah,
what?
yeah.
So I had to snatch my name back. So I was involved for about 5 years with a wonderful gentleman who public personas is what I call them, was always warm. Christine and everyone around me knew him. He had a wonderful bear hug, energetic smile. He was the fella. And at that time, I was with him. I think is the season of which I did all the work and built my business and had a storefront, right? So what ended up happening is Christine and I, who was very invested in that process with me, we were not sure if what he did, the acts that was committed towards me, we thought perhaps maybe just bipolar activity.
Right. And
Because it was so,
I'm still putting my name on that. It is
yeah.
partially due to being bipolar, but go on.
Yeah, so it was just an unseen definitely shocking experience. But I want to say this because we wanted to talk about the domestic violence month, and we were going to go into talking about ride or dies and toxic relationships. I will be forthcoming and honest and say that my guy, he was very emotionally volatile, right? He would get angry and frustrated very easily. He carried a lot of stress and was very much sometimes concerned about how I came across in our communication when we were out socializing. So we could have, for instance, been at a fantastic family function, or I could have just been in my place of business, and he and I could leave and be in the same, car in the same place, and he would just start fussing and becoming very domineering. And I would just get
Hostile.
quiet.
Hostile. He was
And I
very
would get
hostile.
quiet, thinking, okay, well, it'll blow over. He was never physically violent, but there was always I call it punishment promises. If you don't do this, then I will not do this thing. I won't support the business. I won't be in your company. I'm going to disappear. And I unfortunately, and we need to discuss this too, was not aware of it, but you become trained up in that behavior from the unspoken messages that the women and the men in your family teach you. So Christine has tried to push the envelope a little bit in the past about being raised with my grandparents and being raised with my mom. So the oxymoron is my mom is a fighter, right? Verbally, she can get it with the best. She's physically a fighter. But I did see her in a domestic situation in which, honestly, my stepfather even set the bed on fire. So it's not that I hadn't seen it, right? So I knew that if it became that kind of violence, I would be like, oh no, this is alarming. If someone touched me, pushed me, shoved me, it would be alarming. But I didn't think about it, that the amount of energy that it took to try to keep my partner from not exploding or reacting or getting frustrated or questioning every business move that I made.
Well,
Was
not just
just
questioning, Tricia. While I know this is your story, I think it was
no, I want you to
requiring.
help.
He was
You were there.
requiring certain
Yes.
things from you. And if you didn't do it, there was a threat of, this could happen or that could happen, or you'll never have to see me again type.
Yeah, and even kept me in a fear-based place
Mhm.
because back then I used to have my business open as early as 6 in the morning, and we'd be in there sometimes as late as 10 in the evening. And he would make comments about, oh, anything can happen to you guys. You're staying at work too long, too late. Someone could come in and rape you guys and pull you in the back. Nobody will ever see you. So it was just constant verbal trauma, always keeping my mind, as we say on the streets, my head was always on the swivel. Like, okay, here he come, and what's about to happen. So long and short version, because we don't have enough time, I just felt like one day I woke up and I was in a Lifetime movie. At the crack of dawn on a Saturday morning, specifically March 1st of 2014, I got a phone call early, and we didn't live together. Let's preface that. We were people who had our own places. And so he said, hey, are you leaving for work? And I was at the time given an engagement ring and some other things Christine knows about. So he asked me, why don't you do me the honor, leave your jewelry out. It's getting cold outside. Leave your coat out. I'm going to get those things cleaned up for you. And I was like, oh, okay, fantastic. But let's be clear about what happened that week. Going into that week, my business was in need of I was a salon owner and I needed some booth renters. And I was in the process of getting 2 new booth renters. Remember, Chrissy?
I
And they were
remember.
men.
Yep,
They were barbers.
they were male.
Yeah, and one was a educator like myself, and I was so excited because I had carried that space by myself for a very long time, and it was looking like, oh my gosh, we're going to get some more money up in here,
Yeah.
and I was so excited. And at
We're
first
going to
he was
begin thriving instead of just surviving.
listen. Right? Because I mean, we were doing a lot to sustain and just make sure that things were viable and fruitful. But he did question me and was asking, why do you need these renters and why do they have to be barbers? And I'm just telling it from the perspective of business. These men have their own clientele. Right. They're in these very healthy and hearty family relationships. It's going to be good for the visibility of protection. And he's like, well, what about the people they're going to service that you don't know? And I'm like, what about them? So
It's a public place. We already know people will come.
Yeah. So we went through that from like Wednesday to Friday. Right. And he was upset. And then on Thursday night, so Wednesday was the big volcanic, why are you doing it? The information was brought to him on Monday. Wednesday, it's why are you doing it? Thursday night, it's, you know what, sweetheart, I trust your judgment. You're always so shrewd and you're a great businesswoman. I know that you're going to be, making the best choice. You won't bring just any old, street hoodlum up in there, and you girls are going to be okay. Wonderful. The guys one of them was supposed to come in that Friday morning, and me, the receptionist, everybody, we were ready. And he gave us a call and said he wouldn't be able to make it that day. But my person was not aware of that. And we were extremely busy that day and a little behind on time. So I worked from that morning from like 6 or 7 up until that evening, about 9 or 10. And he kept calling, but my receptionist kept blocking some of the calls because she knew that we were overwhelmed. And she was just like, you can call him back. Like, he cannot always continue to interrupt your day.
She was trying to keep you from being distracted.
Correct. Right. And so when I got off work that evening, that's when he called and he was, telling me he had stopped by my home. He said, I stopped by and you took longer than I expected. So I left. So I didn't give him he never had keys officially. Right. So what happened was the same week I needed to leave and said, okay, you're welcome to use the extra keys that's by the door, and then you can return them to me next time I see you, right? So that was Friday night. I wake up Saturday morning. He calls me very early, leave your jewelry. I'm going to, try to make sure that I take things, get them cleaned, etc. While I'm at work, Chrissy, no lie, my intuition is something is wrong.
Of course.
It's nothing alarming that he's definitely done that's abnormal to his reactions and his, erratic thoughts when he is not in control of knowing what's going on in my head. And I live near my dad. I think he knew that. And I was like, I should just go home or call my dad. And my, again, receptionist / very good friend was like, this is what he plays into. You need to work. You need, to be here. People are counting on you. So we ran that program. So right around 3:00 that afternoon, he said, hey, what time are you getting off? And I said, hey, I think about 4 or 5. I said, and he says, okay, fine. I get off work later than expected. I get to my home. I go and I open the door. And when I enter it, the entire place had been ransacked. I think you remember that.
No, you need to talk about to the extent a little bit of the ransack. You need to go there.
I'm gonna give it up. So when I came in, all of the electronics were gone. Televisions, computers, anything that could be moved was removed. Those computers, that computer in particular, of course, it had documents and different things that I use for work. And the keyboard had liquid and the hard drive had liquid poured on it. So there was no retrieval of those things. My couch, my furniture, the couch and chairs and stuff had been slashed and just ripped apart with a knife. My bedroom furniture had been destroyed. My closets were empty. My jewelry was gone. Like anything that
so
was
let's
movable.
make it clear. He had taken all of your clothing or had someone take all of your clothing.
Correct.
Your furniture was slashed. Was anything in half? Or was it was still there, but just slashed?
Slashed. And I did keep pictures.
Okay.
So, I have those memories.
Right.
So, yeah.
The electronics were either taken or destroyed.
Correct.
There was no sign of breaking in.
Breaking and entering. Correct. and so now I'm standing in shock, afraid to go in any further. And I try to call, he doesn't answer. And I text and say, no, I think he called. Either he called or I don't know. I don't remember who called who. Right. And he said, so you're home. I think he must have called. And I said, yes. And I said, I see you've done your handiwork. And he said, you have not begun to see what my handiwork will be. Yeah. And I don't remember that we had any conversation that day. So that was a Saturday evening. It was a cold Chicago winter evening, and I
remember that.
Yeah, I immediately began to react to it and not respond to him. So I called my father and said, "Hey, this just happened," and he was, "Dad, I'm in Indiana getting gas," because nobody could really process the depth or what I was saying. I called to Florida and told my sister, and she said, "Are you serious? Are you talking about the same person we just had our holidays with?"
Right.
Nobody's processing what I'm saying.
Yes.
Right? And I called another one of our friends whom is a police chief in Chicago. And I told her, and she was like, "Do you need me to come with the weapons?" And then it kicked into overdrive. Where do I go? I can't sleep here. I don't know what happened. So let's just pin that and
How about you don't
understand.
even know how much you should be watching your back right then at that moment? Like it's,
That's where I was
you
going.
know,
So yeah, so let's pin it, because what I knew about the situation was he didn't do it right by himself, or he didn't do it. What he did was give someone else or some other people access to be able to get into my space
exactly.
and do that, right? So then now I'm realizing, had I come in at whatever time I was asked, what time will you be there? I could have been assaulted, or I could have been murdered, or I could have been raped. I could have been a lot of things. But
Yes,
because I
because what
came,
do people do when they're in the middle of committing a crime and they don't
correct,
expect for you to be there?
correct.
They go off
So
the
so
deep end sometimes.
correct, correct. So when I finally did make it to my bedroom and look on my dresser, he was able to have a space in my room that had his things, and there was a note in there, and basically the note was from whoever the offenders were, and they used like a code name, And I said, "Oh, okay." I get it, right? So I ended up calling someone who was a family friend, an older lady, and I ended up, and I guess maybe I'm disclosing more when I say that. And I called her and I said she was asleep early, because older people go to sleep. And I said,
Hmm.
this just happened to me. She was the first and only person that didn't question me. She said, are you on your way to be here with me? And I said, yes, I'm on my way. So
Okay.
I went over there that night, and that began my journey into Saturday, Sunday morning, Monday morning, Tuesday morning, and I left the city of Chicago on Wednesday morning on an airplane wearing Uggs, a coat, and carrying a suitcase with winter clothes, and I hadn't returned back for several years. I ended up going out of the country on a one-way ticket, and was not sure. I didn't fill in those pieces, but I will. When I was out of the country, I had a girlfriend in place to help deal with the salon, to deal with the business. And she went to go check the business with her husband as security. And when she got there, he had also gone into my place of business, and they had removed anything that was not nailed down. So, hence
Hmm.
why I had to ask myself, what am I coming back to? I spent my entire adult life building a reputation and a career.
Sure
I didn't
did.
keep that kind of mess, violence, fear around me. I had never had that level of threat. So now here I am. I have signed myself up as a professional woman. I've developed a reputation. Here I am. I have financially committed to something. I educated myself for this something. And
Hmm.
he even in the days before me leaving said that if I didn't do whatever it was he was asking of me to participate in with him, he said, well, I'm going to have to come up there while you're servicing your people. So I'm not going to give you that opportunity to bring something to my people that they've never had happen, never signed up for. And perhaps it was a threat, and perhaps it wouldn't have been followed through. But by then I believed whatever he had to
Of
say. So
course. Yes.
when my girlfriend called, and Christine knows whom that was, and she said, hey, I just wanted you to know I have really bad news, because we were Skyping because I was out of the country. And she said, you have nothing left in here but cabinets and things that were not movable. And so I'm going to have to talk to the building owner about negotiation for you, because now how are you going to come back and do business with nothing in here to do business with? And so began the journey. But for every day that I was still there, he called me all like every couple hours. He was sending me extremely crazy texts. He was requiring thousands of dollars. I think the amount was like
No, it
$5,000.
was
I didn't even
7. It was 7 because
listen. I didn't even know where the number came from.
and
Right,
that's a
sir?
good question.
Yeah.
I think Wanda just asked a good question, and I'm so close
Yes.
to the situation that
Yes. Yes.
I you know, if I had to answer and she wasn't here, I would have said yeah to get something back. Cause you know what? Now that I think about it, when he was asking for that money, it was so much destroyed. If you had given it to him, what would, or if any friend had given it to him on behalf of you, what were you going to get back? If you don't mind my asking, what were you
Oh, I
getting
wasn't going
back?
to get anything back. He was saying he said, you were selfish. Every time I've asked you to support something that's important to me, you've only taken care of yourself. Now I need you to do what I'm going to say. You just never understood. It was these very, what do you call it? Cryptic type of messaging and conversation. So I said at the onset of the conversation, we, meaning I used to tell people who would say, you never say that you're the owner of the salon. And I said, you don't own anything if you don't have any business coming in there. And the people that work alongside me helped me to establish that business. So Christine was a very integral part of me starting that business and maintaining that business. She was always counsel and played as one of my board of exec people that would give me feedback. So I say that to say, that there was not a lot of gain in that season, a lot of profit
Yeah,
coming in.
it was a building
So,
phase.
yeah, we were still in the ramp up
Right.
seasons of that business. So where exactly you, whom have known my life, expect that we would get this money? And then the other flip side for me is this. So I'm supposed to give you some money and you're going to keep coming back like a pimp and just keep asking me for more money? We're not about to do that.
It
And
just,
then,
it didn't make
what
sense.
what kind of hoeing is you thinking we doing here?
And here, let me
Right?
just say this. To tell you how ridiculous it was and how much we love you. Your dear friend
Christine,
over
you just
here.
have to laugh at this point, how much we love you.
I tried meeting with the gentleman even after the BS took place
Wanda,
to find out if
please.
there was anything I could do.
No, wait a minute. Hold up. Wanda, this happened almost 10 years ago next year. May I say to you that Christine just told me that 2 months ago?
I did. I refused to
I was
tell her.
not even aware.
I tried to meet with him and I was so scared. I was scared.
But Chrissy, remember, the reason you were also meeting with him is that when I disappeared, Wanda, no one
We didn't
knew
know what
to
happened.
me.
I did not right
No,
away.
I did not. I had two
And
people that knew.
I was scared,
Yes.
but I didn't know the extent of what was happening. It was just all of a sudden she disappeared. And I didn't know what was going on. And when I got to the meeting, I let them know I wanted to meet. And it's strange because as as hostile as he could be, I felt that he had a warmth for me.
He did. He always did.
And so that's why I tried to meet with him anyway. And when I got there, I was so surprised. He was not sorry. He was asking for the money. And he wanted the money to the extent that he was okay if I rounded it up. He just wanted the money. And what really bothered me, and when I knew that I needed, like I couldn't, when I knew that this was a situation that was far gone, was when I realized he had her journals and had went through all her journals. He had them on his phone.
Yeah. So he had taken all of I had a safe, but it was, of course, something you can carry out. And it had my social security card. It had my naturalization, immigration documents, my passports. Every single thing was removed from my home. So technically, my identity was being challenged. And I just want to say that Chrissy and I had dinner with him before, like maybe 2 years before that.
Yeah.
And her and I was at dinner with him, and we were joking about me going to a movie with another friend, I think it was.
But it was her
simple,
best
right?
friend. It was her female friend.
Yeah. And he was like, I don't think you mentioned you went to a movie. And he had began to have a conversation that became so I don't even know if it was volatile or berate. It was just
it was irrational. So Wanda,
it was irrational.
It would be like this. If Tricia and I went to the show, we went to go see Till, about Emmett Till. And my boyfriend ended up coming to dinner with us maybe 2 days after it. And I just mentioned to her, or she mentioned to me, girl, this reminded me of that scene in Till. And we would just start talking about it, and he would be sitting there. And if I just hadn't forgotten, maybe, or just hadn't mentioned to him that I'd been to the show, he hit the ceiling in the restaurant. We were embarrassed. He began acting. He was irrational. He caused the scene. It was embarrassing.
Yeah. And it was the first time he had done it in
public. And see, that was the first view I got of it. And for a minute, what was so funny, I'm going to say this, but this is not what the podcast is about, so we'll get right back on track. But I'm going to tell you what was funny. For a minute, that kind of destroyed the dynamic between Tricia and me, because I was not expecting that. I had not
Well,
seen him do that.
I will say that I was about to go into that next. So
Yeah.
I know that this may have a slow snail's crawl into all that happened, but I do want to make sure that we really address that, Wanda, because when you're in a situation like that, their goal is for you to be isolated. Their goal is for you to be ostracized from people who love you, because it gives them more leverage, because you are, according to another part of conversation Chrissy and I had yesterday, they want you to ride or die with them, right? They want you to prove that you are rocking and rolling with them.
You're
and
constantly proving that.
Yeah. So the importance of that being a problem is that it forged a wedge in a relationship with someone I had known since I was 18 years old. Christine and I had been acquaintances and became friends. And as you guys could tell, we're excellent friends. And for, I'd say, the betterment of 6 months to a year, there was tension every time she came in.
It was.
I was so,
wait, Wanda raised her hand.
Yeah,
Wanda
go
got
ahead,
a
Wanda.
question.
Ask the question.
Why did it raise tensions?
Right.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you.
No,
okay,
because I was gonna give her my version.
She's gonna sugar.
No, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Oh no. I'm gonna tell the truth. No.
Well, I'm just gonna tell my version because you.
Okay, and then Wanda, I'll give you mine.
So Wanda, I'm gonna give you my version as the victim. I'm a victim. I'm sitting in a situation in which I'm shocked because this person is doing this publicly. I'm sitting across from my girlfriend. And in that moment, as it's happening, Chrissy's reaction and response was similar to my reaction and response, which was, let's act like it's not happening. And what she began to do was engage him and start talking about these whimsical conversations about Chris. I'm sorry, I almost said his name. She's like, I just love your car. And then when you get a chance, can we go riding? And I'm sitting there in shock. And I'm like, what in the name of H.E. Hockey Sticks is this chick talking about? And then we went on, tried to finish dinner. We have pictures from that event, right? And we're looking beautiful and happy.
I was going to say, we should, one day we should show that
nothing's
picture.
Happening.
Yep.
And Wanda, she goes, she never calls me back. She never addresses that it happened.
Never checked on her.
Instead, she comes in for her hair services from that point, and she acts like it never happened.
I did.
And as a person,
I did all of that.
Who had just been verbally assaulted, emotionally victimized, in shock, knew that I was in something, wasn't sure how I was going to get out. Let's be clear, very faith-based, very invested in church. So of course now, what am I doing? Praying, thinking you could pray your way out of it. Lord, please give me the guidance, the wisdom, and the will. I'm going to fast. I'm going to Beyonce this thing on lemonade. I'm going to fast, I'm going to pray. I'm going to call the gods. I'm going to call the ancestors because I don't know how to get out. I'm really in toil and turmoil. And I was in shock that I could have this girlfriend be in this with me, come get her hair done, and sit and just be really consumed with, how are you going to make sure I'm looking cute, girl? It was nice to see you. And so being the Tricia you guys have gotten to know on this podcast, I had to call her out, Wanda. I had to address her in the chair and say, so friend, are you ever going to act like you were there? And what happened that you felt like you were violated and you couldn't identify with me being a victim? And so that is where the wedge came. The wedge came because my friend couldn't process it. She couldn't manage that. She couldn't support that. And now she'll explain to you what happened to her.
Yeah. So what is interesting about it is it did take about 6 months for us to really talk about it for real.
Yes.
For real.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened with me, and I know clearly now, being the person I am today, what was going on. I don't know if I would have been able to put this into words back then. I know the feeling I had, but I don't know if I would have been able to put it into words. This is just after a lot of growth.
Right.
Okay, so Wanda, I grew up watching my father do that to my mother. So I lived that. I mean, totally lived that exact situation, verbatim. I mean, and I was mad at her because I was mad at my mother for accepting that for years. And my feeling towards it was, your man ain't right. What you got me out here for on my birthday, celebrate my birthday with this idiot? Not like, oh my gosh, my friend is in this situation that my mom was in. I know it's bigger than what she probably can handle, and probably she needs someone, and I can be that someone. I wasn't there. I was so upset because it sent me back to the punishment that I endured my whole childhood until my dad got help. And I was not able to have that discussion with her.
You also didn't have you weren't.
I didn't have it. I didn't have it. I didn't have it. And that's, I guess, in a sense, how you know the mark of a good relationship, because our relationship did withstand it. It did. Because the love was there, and it wasn't ever like I wished her any harm. I really truly was not able to, I just wasn't able to go there right away. And if my I didn't feel any different towards her, but I was not going to address that, because addressing it meant I had to address
Yourself,
my ish, and I wasn't ready to do that.
So Wanda, that's why we're capable of talking about we missed it, because we be missing it.
we got a whole lot of stuff, and
actually helps other people
we
who
yeah
are in it from both standpoints.
yeah
Because a lot of times you don't
Yeah.
know, and I hate that I'm talking without people being able to hear it.
I can hear you, Wanda.
no, we want
I
the
don't want people listening to
The
story.
people should be
Right.
able to hear her because she's coming clear.
Our dear listeners of We
Right.
Who come every other Sunday
Right.
to tune in. I'm asking. I think it's very helpful
Transparent.
that you guys are sharing this, because people have been on either both ends, being a victim of a situation like this, and also being the support system and not knowing how to support. I mean, and I recognize myself in that story, as you told it, of being a friend that wouldn't have the words to actually help the way we should, because we don't I wouldn't have had the knowledge, or at that time dealing with my own ish, and had that I had never dealt with myself, so not even having the skills to help. And so then you try to avoid and act like it didn't happen, so you don't really even have to deal with it. And I saw myself in
Yeah.
both instances with one of my friends, but also notwithstanding it, that and I don't know if you both have to become healed for it to withstand, so you can go back and understand and have empathy for the person back at that time, or what. But we didn't withstand it, of not being there for them. So that's interesting. It would be nice to also hear how the conversation went when you
Well,
all did discuss it.
and I'll let her tell that piece. I'll just say this. I do want you to tell that piece, Tricia. But what I would say is that when she finishes, I will tell you about
Something similar
something
about
that happened
you.
to me that was similar, and how today I'm able to discuss what why I was allowing it to happen. But I do think it's very interesting, Tricia, how we got about around it. I do believe, forgive me if I get the lady's name wrong, because she did bowl with me in a bowling league, but she was also kind of close to you, especially when you all were in this line. Was it Sherlinda?
Sherlinda was a bowler. I believe you guys.
Okay, that was the one who was there that
that
kind of
evening.
helped facilitate that. Go on.
Okay, because I don't remember
Mhm.
it. I don't remember.
Oh, I
don't
remember it. Do you want
remember
me
it.
to say it
Okay.
then? I remember it.
So
Because see, it's my
Wanda,
stuff too. See.
yeah. See, Wanda, in discussing Christine and I addressing the situation, I've always been known in our group of friends for saying what I need to say and not being loved for my delivery. And Christine has always been known for being very prim, very proper, not doing any public displays of anything that would be hair raising at all, at all, right?
The way you describe that. Okay.
Yeah, that's you. And so by the time we're 6 months into this, remember, I'm still in relationship with this person. I'm still wounded in this relationship. I'm still trying to sustain a business. And I am being forced to provide service, and I am not given permission to make any mistakes on how that delivery goes and how this person feels when they leave. Christine, as my client, in that moment is not my friend. So I have to make sure that every week she comes to get that service, she looks and feels like she is paying me to look and feel. And then at the same time, I have to mask the fact that we had a personal experience. So because I am the Tricia I've always been, it just got to where I had to just come at her. And she's saying now, because her experiences, she remembers, how dare her address me publicly in front of another person? That's what she remembers.
That is.
Right?
And
She
she
doesn't
does
even
it, little
remember-
does she know, that she does that a lot. That's how she used to do stuff. She would get her point across. It would always, a lot of times, be with somebody else around.
You know, and they looked at it as, how dare she do that? But the question becomes, if you're my friend and my person, and you don't have it in you to call me or answer a call or meet me outside of this place, but I'm seeing you constantly, when do you propose it is within the right grace and within the right mercy and within the right etiquette that I address you? So how about F-U-C-K, what you talking about? Because your ass gonna talk to me. That's how I addressed her. So
That's
what
how
the
it
hell you
happened.
gonna do? That's how we had to
That's how it happened.
And she was pissed because I had a person sitting there who knew us both and affectionately.
She did, but I didn't know her as well. The girl knew Tricia way more than she knew me. And I was like,
wait a
minute. No, you're not gonna bring this up right here in front of this lady.
Tracy, what day did you used to come? Like a Wednesday or Thursday?
Girl, was a Thursday.
Wanda, we talking 8:00 at night, 8:30.
Girl, it was late.
Yes.
We up in this line. I don't know. We probably shedded some tears. I don't even know what happened.
Listen, you know what happened. So you can tell Wanda why you felt that I was wrong 6 months later for calling you out for being absent, unaccounted for, and saying, you know what, if I could just imagine that shit away, we could just get back right. No, heifer, I can imagine his ass away, but you, from age 19, I'm going to lose this friendship because I know I lost it. Because I'm not understanding how could you witness me go through that, be part of it, and not address it. I definitely had no words for that. So now you can tell her how you felt because I said it in front of somebody else.
Do you understand why now, though?
Oh, yeah, because we discussed it. So she's about to tell you.
Okay.
Yeah. It was because, again, I was upset with her.
She was mad at me.
Because I thought, and see, the thing is, sometimes you don't know how the things that's why, everybody's story, it really does matter. I mean, it really does matter. I was upset because I'm thinking, well, you know that he has these tendencies. Why you bring him out? Now, I don't know what she knows. That was an assumption on my part. But where am I getting that from? Because I used to feel that way about my mama. You know, that nigga crazy, right? So,
and it was your birthday.
Yes, girl, it was just wild.
Yes,
girl, I look back on those days. It was a mess, Wanda.
Listen, Wanda, how dare me have my very first experience of public humiliation with this man in front of my friend? I should have known that he would do that. I should have foreseen how he thought.
So I'm not thinking about her circumstances. All I can think about is honestly, let me tell you what's so funny about it. And I may maybe overgeneralize things that I say about the situation because I do feel like I lived it, although this is a different individual than my dad was. But what was so interesting about it was that I did exactly what Tracy had said during the situation. And what was funny is it was just escalating. It was escalating.
She imagined it away. It was not happening.
It was the situation that his mood was getting worse and worse and worse.
And she would see him, Wanda. She would still see him. And she would still pretty it up when she saw him.
I sure did.
How you doing? Hug. And
I did. I never treated him any differently or anything.
Yeah.
Because, and here's the reason why. It's because I know that when you have a person, I won't even just say a man, because women do that too. We have women that do that. That on that day, that's kind of like a different person that shows up. It's that person versus another version that you do see at other times that doesn't resemble that doesn't resemble that person. I know for me,
Correct.
and the reason, and I say overgeneralize and assume because I know for me, Wanda, we found out that my dad was bipolar. He
Oh.
was. He was bipolar. And once he realized it, he was a different man. He was not that
Yeah.
man.
Once he was medicated. And we used to tell
Yeah.
my ex person that we thought he was bipolar, but he never got tested.
But
But I
most
just want to
people
make
don't.
sure
No.
we don't
They don't
miss
think they have an issue.
opportunity.
They don't think, they just think they're moody or something.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
many
Or it's
things.
you.
Right,
Not
right. Or
them.
it's you, right.
Yeah.
But it's so many things we don't call out. And
When it comes to mental health,
what
there's
I'm gonna
all
say
kinds of
about
things.
it, Tracy, I'm gonna let you say something else about it too if you want to. But what I'm gonna say is, again, Wanda, watching what happened between my parents allowed me to accept something that I'll discuss off of from a man that clearly was because I didn't think that his abuse was a deal breaker because I've been watching abuse.
So let's just get into you real quick. But before we do that, I just want to make sure we finish with the little moment that Wanda asked us about. What I would love very much if you could remember and go back into that place, which is why we are capable of doing this show. We missed it on Intellectual Radio because we do go into the darker spaces.
We do. We will
and
go
we go
there.
uncomfortable to come out great, right?
Yes.
You felt some things while you were in that chair. And when you got in that car, you said that you cried and you were so pissed at me.
Oh, yeah. I was.
So could you do that? Is
Well,
that
I
possible?
can't go back there because I'm not
Okay.
that girl anymore.
Okay.
But
All right.
I felt
Okay.
exposed.
Okay.
I felt embarrassed.
Okay.
I felt ashamed because of
Okay.
my reaction was what it was rather than what you needed it to be. I felt
Yes.
like I had let you down. I felt
Okay.
like I didn't give you the benefit of the doubt. So it was a lot of things.
And when you got in the car, you were like, F her. I ain't letting her do my hair. No effing more.
I never felt that way. Remember, I told you I
Look,
required the
Wanda,
service. I didn't just
look,
like the
Wanda,
service.
we have this joke about my girlfriends. We will let go of the friendship, but they will
Boy, we
not
ain't
let
letting go of the hair.
hairstyle.
You're going to keep doing his hair. That's the truth. Look, Wanda, we went through all that. I never stopped coming to this line. Well,
It's hard to find a good
look,
stylist
I'm making
now.
this appointment. Look, I'm still on my every 2 weeks. Bitch, you better do my hair.
It's hard to find a good stylist.
And
You say I can get friends. You can't get a new stylist.
Girl, that is so true. But yeah, I did. I got in the car. And it's funny. Do you know that piece of it? I didn't even remember until you just told me. I got in the car and I really broke down. I remember that because I was parked
she's
around
not
the
a
corner
crier, so
and I
that's
was
important.
Huh?
Because you're not a crier, that's important.
Yeah.
That thing took you to the place that you needed to go.
Yeah.
To be able to exert.
It allowed
out.
me to release. Yeah, and I think I didn't know that I was carrying that. See, that situation made me realize that I needed to do something with that. So you don't even know it sometimes.
And that's the only reason, Christine, why I'm asking you to go right there. Because when we say on these airwaves, we've done the work, I want people to know that the work is dirty.
Oh,
and the
yeah.
work felt bad. Right? And we pushed ourselves and we had enough courage and we had enough love for one another to go in there and do that work. So I just wanted the person who may be feeling like a victim, who may need to have some people show up that can't show up. I want you to know what those people are feeling as well. Because we never talk about what happens to the people whom are also a part of the victimizing. Because, the victimization, because you're a victim as well.
Exactly. That night I was. Yeah. And it never dawned on me that here's what's funny about it. If Tricia had got hit by a car, if even some other friend had done something to her, I'd be there attached at the hip. But in this case, I was not able to see that she needed me. I couldn't see it.
So my question becomes,
but any other situation, I would have seen it.
Was it because it was relational and it had a male attached to it? Does that cause us any hampering, or was it more because of our childhood representation?
For me, it was that childhood wound
representation
that I had not reconciled. I had not addressed it. I had not even known that it was a wound. Still, I know it happened.
Yes.
But I didn't even know it was still a thing with me. until I was at that table.
And so we can pause my part and then we can switch over to your part. But what I want to say as we pause is the reason why we're willing and wanting to even go into these stories on the air and share it is that we want to make sure that we contribute to the old saying of do not judge a book by its cover. We know whom you see when you see us. We
Right.
know how we may present, but we want people to really fully understand that there are interiors that really sometimes exist. And we want those people whom have to deal with the interiors and do some redesigning. We need you to understand that you really do have to pull the wallpaper off those walls
You
and get
do.
dirty,
And it
right?
might not be pretty and it may not be easy to put the wallpaper back up. But if you don't
And
do
it's going to
that
be
work,
costly.
yeah,
It's
if you
going to
don't
be
do that
costly.
work
It has a
behind it,
price.
then
Yeah.
you can put that wallpaper up, you can dress it up, but underneath, it'll still be stinky in there, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah. So Christine, please do share
I'll
what
transition to
your
mine
beautiful.
because we're running on time, but I will tell mine. And the reason it's important too is because, like you called yours, I think you just called it economical. So actually, with all the things that we've said about domestic violence, I guess maybe you're right about that. But okay, so let's go over mine, which I call.
Well, mine was economical, emotional
That's what
as
okay,
well,
mine is
and
emotional. Mine
yeah,
mine would probably be
yeah,
emotional. So let me tell you what
yeah.
happened real quick. I was dating a fella throughout my 30s. We had been together for probably at that time about 10 years. I think all in all, Tricia, honestly, I think I gave this relationship probably about 13 to 15 years. The last two being off and on, but at the time it was 10 years in, I believe, or close to it. And it was a kind of relationship where he and I never were on the same page. Either he was invested and I wasn't, or I was invested and he wasn't. And I just remember at that time of my life feeling like, I do love this person, but this is really going nowhere. There were, you know, several things going on, but what happened was he clearly was not giving me the attention probably that you should give your girlfriend at that time. And it didn't matter what it was for. I had at least gotten to the point in my life where it didn't matter if it was because he was dipping out with somebody else or he was just into other activities. It didn't matter. I wasn't getting the attention. So there was another fella who was, you know, expressing interest, whatever. So I decided that, I would give it a chance. And when I say give it a chance, I don't even like right now, I don't even know what that meant because we were not like seeing each other. It was just, I was going to give him, conversation time and just see what it
Time. You
was.
were going to give him some
I was
time to
giving him
give you
some
some.
time,
Yeah, you were going to hear him out.
just hear him out.
Hear him out.
Exactly. That's what it was. And so I had let him stop by the house one evening. As he did live in the area, he had been somewhere out with some friends or something. He said, "Can I stop by?" And I said, "Yes." Well, don't you know that would be the day that my boyfriend, who's usually occupied on a Saturday night and not with me, decides that he wants to call. So I did not answer. He called several times. I did not answer. Uh, Fast forward, Tricia. I'm not going to even go through all the calling
Listen,
and what
you
happened.
got to look. I gave it clear. Make it clear, Christine.
Fast forward about 2 hours later, maybe an hour, my doorbell was ringing.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And next thing I know, the person had jumped the fence or somehow rigged the lock on the back gate of my building and was
Yes.
at my back door banging on the
And
door.
Wanda, this is a very tall fence, by the way.
Banging on the
It's not no
door.
punk fence.
And
Yeah.
can anyone guess what happened when I didn't answer the door, Wanda?
I can't guess. Tell me.
The door was kicked
It's like
in.
Monica.
The door
Kick
was
down the
kicked
door and
in.
pull smack your tit.
The
Monica, you got
door
that
was
Monica.
literally kicked in.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so let me tell you what happens, Wanda. When the door's kicked in, my alarm goes off because I had my alarm on. And when the alarm went off, the person grabbed me at the neck because the police called. Why did the police call? Because I couldn't get to the alarm in time to turn it off. And the person grabbed and said, "You better tell them you're okay. Because if you say that you are not, no, you better say you're okay. Because I ain't fucking going back to jail."
Oh,
So what did I do?
I'm fine.
I'm fine. Police hangs up. Uh, the rest of the weekend, this was on I want to say it was a Friday night. I thought it was Saturday, but it was Friday night because let me tell you, I know it was Friday. And this is where the emotional abuse comes in. So, somewhat physical violence for sure. But this is where the emotional piece comes in. The emotional piece comes in because guess what the person proceeded to do for the rest of the weekend?
I don't know.
Stay in my presence so that I couldn't even do anything.
Wow.
He made sure I didn't connect with anyone else. Certainly not the guy, right? He made sure I didn't connect with anyone else. He made sure I had a chance really to tell anyone else because he was there for basically the whole day, Saturday and Sunday. And of course, I couldn't say, well, I didn't have the words to say, I don't want you here. This is a person who just kicked in my door.
How far apart is this incident from Tracy's incident?
I want to say mine was before hers
Okay.
by a few years. Mm-hmm. Because I think in her incident, we were in our 40s. My
No,
incident, I was in my 30s. I was in my late
no,
30s.
we were not in our 40s because I left Chicago at 41, and that happened before. So we were in our late
Okay.
30s when he did
So
that.
maybe
Yeah.
less apart than I thought. Maybe just about a year.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mhm. And Wanda, she didn't tell me this till about this past year
Yeah, I didn't
when we
tell
talked
her.
about when we've talked about doing this podcast. So I'd say within the last 2 years, before we ever had the
Mhm.
pleasure of meeting you and Earl and becoming a part of the Intellectual Radio family, we would talk on the phone for hours and discuss things, and that's how we came up with understanding that we had matured into these women that had the ability to have these perspectives, right? And then so as we've come up with topics, and I would be, sharing, we've learned that we were having, as we said in the beginning, parallel experiences. So the question becomes, what was she thinking that she got the door fixed?
Well, here's
Uh,
no. Let me
he,
tell you the interesting piece.
uh-huh.
So he kicks in the door,
Mm-hmm.
and I forget what happens right after. But do you know he was the person that fixed the door?
Wow.
Yes, you told me
He
he
put
was
it all back
capable.
together,
He
and
was
then
capable.
proceeded to make sure he was at my house for the entire day Saturday and the entire day Sunday. So now let me ask you this. Is that the emotional category? Because what happened was I couldn't I couldn't tell anyone.
Well, you were numb. He
I
gave
was
you time
numb
to
and I
numb
didn't even have
yourself.
the words to tell him, don't come here. I didn't want him there. I didn't even have the words to say, why are you here?
Well, do you think that that was also fear-based? Because now he's shocked you and done something that he had never done for 8 years prior, 10 years
It
prior.
was fear-based. It was the most uncomfortable thing I think I've ever been through in life.
Well, I think for me, just giving you guys the beginning and excerpts of what happened, because I thought I had done everything to not put myself in a situation for a man to feel like he had that kind of power, or I needed him to take care of me. Because if you think about it, for my person to be upset about what I was doing with the business he had no investment in, and to feel like I owed him money, like he put any into the business,
And really
all of
felt
that
that
was
way.
fake.
Oh,
He
that's what
really
the
felt that way.
$7,000 was for.
He really
felt
felt
Yeah.
that
owed it.
way.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, Wanda, can we swap and let me owe 7,000 and he could take the other amount that I used to build it?
Right.
Right?
But
That part, as they say.
here's the thing that's interesting, Wanda. So as we talk about this, some type of way between my guy and me, this relationship gets somewhat repaired, just somewhat. And when I say somewhat, somewhat in the sense that we did eventually kind of continue a normal boyfriend girlfriend, but certainly that needed to be addressed. And Wanda, that should have been a deal breaker. But you know why it wasn't a deal breaker? Because I had watched a man take advantage or intimidate a person for years. And so guess what? That wasn't my deal breaker. And I
But
stayed
it
there.
explains for a little bit then why, when the incident happened with her, that you responded kind of the way you did, because it's kind of how you would responded in your
In
own
my own
situation.
hello? Nothing even right. Now you just called that out.
Yeah,
Basically,
so
Tracy, I didn't discuss that with anyone. I had
Well, no,
one,
because
yeah,
look,
I
Wanda,
think I
I
told
remember,
one person. I had
I
one
remember,
person I told eventually.
I
And
remember,
yeah,
I remember Christine getting her hair done. So for a lot of people who don't know, I met Christine at age 18. Here we are at 51 and
right.
52 beautiful years old. And when we met, we were not, we became fast social
We
friends,
did.
but we were not the girlfriends we are today. So as she became my client, I believe she was probably my client about what, 5 years, Christine?
Before we
And
really bonded.
we were in a salon at that time that I was working in, and it was very small and intimate, a boutique space. It was just her and I one evening, and I said something to her. Wanda, when I tell you that girl clutched her pearls, and I mean she leaned forward and looked back at me and she said, I did not realize I let you get this close to me. And she was a little bit taken aback and offended,
No,
right?
what I said was, I don't even like people to know me that well. What are you talking about?
That thing. And I think it was because she might have shared, or she might have not said something, but I figured out something and asked her a question she felt was a little too close and personal. So I'm just saying that to say, what I think is really very important is that it's okay if you're in a place and space that something is happening with you and to you that you have no words for. But what would be really awesome is that if we as individuals really go in and ask ourselves, what would we do if we had a person that was in our life that really needed some type of support or some type of just reminder that you may not be able to make any decisions, you may stay in, you may get out, whatever, but I'm here to at least let you know I'm here and I see you. So I tell Christy all the time, I've got this little saying, something about humans, something about us is that we need either toe tags or wristbands. You either need someone to be assaulted to the fact of being in a hospital bed, and or you need them in a morgue before you realize that you should have done something back when. So I'm going to just fast forward to the day my mother calls me in another country and she's going off. What in the F? Why are you down there? We've been looking for you. Your father's put a missing persons report out on you. And your sister is the one who said that you might be in two places because she knows you'd only go to two places if your life was not right. And you're in that place. And she said on that phone call to me, you're weak. Why did you run? We don't run. You could have F that NS, that so-and-so up. I could have, all these things. And I'm sitting on the phone, Wanda, and I want you to be clear. My mother's house was the first call. My father was the first call. So why is it that you all abandoned me in that moment? Well, what I said to her was, you and Dad wanted to prove to me by any means necessary that I made a decision to partnership with someone that you didn't approve with.
It was
And
more about the bad decision.
the lesson was more important to them than my safety. So if you needed to see me in a casket, I'm so sorry, because I'm going to have my Tina Turner moment and I'm going to leave behind Ike and we're going to start this whole journey over in a whole nother situation. And that was the messaging I believe that I got from my spiritual decision, right? And I just want to say, prior to me leaving, I left in March, let's say a couple months prior, October or something, my ex did something crazy because I saw the crazy escalating and we were in agreement we were going to break up. So I was waiting for him to do all the doing because I wanted him to go and feel like it was his choice. I called my mother before this ever happened. And I said, Mom, I'm nervous and I'm uncomfortable because I know that this person has escalated and I'm not sure about how to manage this. And I said to her, I'm calling you because I was raised to understand that we keep our business in our home. We keep our stuff in the house and with our family. We don't talk about these things publicly. And do you know that what she said to me in that response was, why the F are you calling me and what do you expect for me to do?
Oh,
And I said, I'm so sorry I called you.
that's another
I
show.
thought I was,
That's a whole nother show.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I just said to her, I'm so sorry I called you. And I forgot whom you were when I called. And I'll just remember that you're not whom I thought you were. And I'll manage this. So my point to you is that I want to say to people, are you realizing that it is possible for you to work as hard as you want to work, look as cute as you want to look, pay all your bills, check all the boxes that your parents give you, and still make decisions that can cause you to be really susceptible and vulnerable because of the messaging they don't know that they're giving you?
Exactly. That's exactly
And
the
that's
whole
where the
point.
work is. That's the work.
Right.
If we go back and look at the messaging that they're giving, that they don't realize that they're giving, that is showing up in our choices and our behavior. I remember my mom was like, you must just have low self-esteem. Well, I didn't even know that that identified me, but in retrospect, perhaps maybe, right? And then I just said, well,
Mm-hmm.
if I do, maybe you should just hope and pray that before you die, you see me like self-correct. Like we were messy like that, right? Vulnerable, messy, toxic foolishness. So I just want to say, if we don't get anything clear on this share today,
Right. On this
please
one.
know, don't look at what you're doing publicly to have the world see that you are capable and as they say, you're smart, you're kind, you're all these things. Look at the messaging that you got, the messaging you received that was without words but was with an action or quiet expectation, and then you can go in and begin to rework how you want to move forward, because Christine and Tricia are not those women. We would not be in those situations, and if
Yeah.
we were, we would manage them totally different. We would stand up in it together, we would talk it out, and we would remove it, right,
That
best
is
we
true.
could.
Yeah.
And that is where we want everyone to be at. So when we say we missed it, we missed it. We may
We
still be missing it, but we don't
right.
want you to
There's
miss it.
right. There's still some
Yeah.
things we're missing. And what I'll do is it's time to close. But one thing I would say is one thing that's different about Tricia uh, and I today than who we were back then is we now understand and have the words. So we would never expect for those things to happen again because we know how to be in relationship a little bit differently now. We have the language to express ourselves and what we want and need. And we know how to protect our boundaries. And we didn't get to boundaries and we don't have time. But most of these things that occur are because that we were not stable in our boundaries when we didn't feel that we were entitled to put a fork, a knife, whatever in the road and say, "Hey, you cannot cross this. Once you cross this, you are now in violation." And so what happens? We continue to get violated until we have the words to say no, or the words to say what we will accept and what we won't. And so boundaries, of course, is for another show, but really it's about having the language and the maturity to really own how you feel and be okay with yourself, okay enough to express it. And so that's it. That's it. That's it. And so seeing that we had never addressed um, domestic violence month in October, it's still an important call out. And I hope that anyone who's going through it has some sort of resources that can get some help. But we are at a point where we have to wrap.
Good
So
show,
Manda,
ladies.
how was that intro to some girls you didn't know?
It makes you like probably a bit large percentage of other girls
yeah,
out here. I mean, I
Amen.
think it's.
Amen.
I
We
mean,
are all in the numbers. So for
yeah,
all of you who listen, we appreciate you for taking the time to listen from beginning to end and allow us to share our stories. We appreciate you. And please know that you don't have to wait for anyone to rescue you. Please go ahead and just trust yourself, find the tools. And if you continue to find those tools, eventually at some point, and hopefully not too late, you will be able to see yourself on the other side of the fantastical rainbow. So happy Sunday. We'll see you on the next, we'll listen to you, talk to you, be with you in the next 2 weeks. And we hope that what we shared today is a blessing and an uplift to those.
And
that
I'll
we do.
just let me just close it out real quick by just doing one thing. If anyone needs help with domestic violence, there is a hotline, a national domestic violence hotline. It's 800-799-7233. We're signing off. This is the We Missed It podcast on IntellectualRadio.com. If you need to reach us on IG, we are We Missed It podcast. Facebook, We Missed It a podcast. And Gmail is we missed it podcast@gmail.com. All right, girl. I'll talk to you later.
Kudos.